Welcome to Rethink Travel podcast. I'm Natalie, your host, and this show is for conscious travelers, powered by Rethink Travel, a platform that aims to educate on sustainability and create a community of conscious travelers around the world. You will listen to conversations I had with hoteliers and people dedicated to make tourism better. So if you seek more from your travels than just a nice place to stay, let's get to the next story. Thank you for tuning into a new episode of the Rethink Travel podcast. Today, I'm hosting Nino. He's the co-founder of Mantra, and he is passionate about contributing to a better future in the travel industry and beyond. Thank you so much for being with me today. I'm so happy to have you here. I discovered you on TED Talk you gave a couple of years ago, and I'm really excited to be talking to you about you and your company, Mantra. So can you give us a little background and, introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Natalie. Thanks so much for having me here today. I appreciate this opportunity. We started Mantra almost 7 years ago, and growing up in Bali, we experienced the impact of tourism and the impact of development firsthand. So you can imagine everything is built up now, and there's concrete and traffic and plastic waste and all kinds of environmental issues that are firsthand experienced here in a way that we don't necessarily see them or experience them in the United States or in Germany or Europe or, like in other countries. And that firsthand impact, like that experience of seeing things, was really what motivated us to find solutions. And like every good startup story, we had our first client and we had our first sale, and we figured out how to save energy, which was basically the first turning point. And we figured out how to tell the hotel owners, listen, we can save you 40% on your energy, and that's going to be almost $100,000 a year. Aren't you interested in doing something? And we realized if we get that in, then we can start working on other more tricky, more complex, sustainable, environmentally sustainable solutions. But it was really only when we figured out to get a foot in the door that we were able to start to work with these clients, with their owners, with their shareholders. And from energy efficiency, we've now gone to water efficiency. We do waste management. We work with architects and design entirely new properties that require less air conditioning, less cooling, produce a lot less carbon emissions. We've also helped solve their waste issues by, for example, changing single-use bottles and drinking and, amenities to bamboo, and to creating a small bottling facility on site and producing their own drinking water, to working with the community and changing the way that they source their materials and who are they buying from. And we've really evolved into this turnkey, holistic company that offers an enormous amount of solutions. It's been going since then. I think we're about 15 engineers now. We have quite a few clients that we just continue working with.
What brought you to do that? Are you an engineer, or what's your background coming into this? You did say you grew up in Bali. What was your connection to work with hotels?
I did my bachelor's in international management and business, and then I did my master's in sustainability economics. I worked for the UN for a very short period of time, for about a year, and I helped design policies, environmental policies, and was part of, government decision-making teams. And I realized I don't want to do this. I don't want to travel and live in hotels, and I want to be, what's close to my heart, and I want to live with a community of humans that I care about, and I want to build a life that I care about. And I took a big risk in putting my career aside and just coming back here and starting a company, that didn't make any money for at least 3 years. But I'm on the sustainability economics side. So I evaluate the landscape. I look at upcoming policies. I look at what potential developers are going to be operating, where in what regions are there going to be new developments? And then I use that knowledge to acquire very good clients and I'm very picky of who we work with. I research them in detail, and I want to make sure that, again, we like being with them and around them and feel like we're represented by them. And then the work goes on to the engineers that, take over once I'm done. So I'm more at the beginning of the whole process. I'm very creative and yeah.
So you started with energy and then worked around water and waste management, and then now I believe design. Can you give me a couple of examples of what you accomplished with one property, for example?
So we figured out quite quickly that the majority of energy is wasted on air conditioners and pumps. And you have to imagine there's a coal power plant on, another island. They got to transport a bunch of coal there. They burn that coal. That heat generates steam. The steam turns a turbine. The turbine produces electricity. The electricity travels to the hotel, over hundreds of kilometers. And already there, we're losing 20 to 30% of the energy that, could be reaching the hotel. There's pollution and emissions and carbon and sulfur. And once it reaches the hotel, someone turns on the air conditioning, which then cools down that room to protect it from the sun, right? The sun is the one heating up the building. So we looked at that and said, well, A, can we produce electricity on site? Are you guys interested in solar? But then B, we figured out we need to reduce the amount of electricity consumed as well. So we had to figure out how do we not use the air conditioning so much, right? Because it really is about 70% of the electricity consumption. And then we figured out how to insulate the rooms better. We started working on communicating with the guests. We figured out that a lot of the ACs are not really sized the right way. They're oversized. They also don't get cleaned. And, so it's just, once you open up this box, more and more problems come your way. And then you're basically just a problem solver. And, you solve one problem after another. So the big one was really air conditioning, and then pumps. We figured out, wow, the pumps are cleaning the pools. They run about 6 to 7 hours per day. Then we're like, does the pool stay clean if it only runs 3 to 4 hours, right? And so we reduced the running time of the pump down to 3-4 hours, and the pool was still clean. And once the GM saw that, he said, okay, well, let's try to switch all the pumps. So then, across a resort, you have over 100, 200 pumps. And then each one gets reduced 2-3 hours. That's like 600 to 700 hours per day. Those savings were just so valuable, and it started to make a name for us. And, we started to get recommendations to go other places and other hotels. And we now work, on water as well, on waste, and we can do almost anything in a hotel. And I guess we're just problem solvers, passionate problem solvers.
I like this term. So it's not only energy saving, but it's also money saving for the property, right?
Yes. And when you make a contract with someone, he has to bring that information to maybe his wife or maybe his shareholders. And in the beginning, we're just about the environment. We're like, but the environment, you have to do it for the environment. And people said, great, guys, you're so passionate, but I need to sell this to my shareholders and stuff. Is there a financial savings anywhere? And it took us some time, but when you find it, it's much easier to convince others and to say, well, look, guys, this saves us money as well. Okay, let's do it, and then you actually start to get their attention and you're part of the meetings, and you can start to say, well, have you guys thought about this? And then it goes on and on. So energy efficiency and financial savings really is a door opener. And then from there on, it's like game on. And we can start talking about waste. I think that was your next question.
Yes. So I wanted to talk about landfills because it is a huge issue in lots of travel destinations, actually. Around the world, it just keeps piling up. People seem to not understand what to do about it. So I want to learn about the solutions you implemented.
What we figured out with a beach club and water bomb, like where, they produce about 800 kilos of waste per day, maybe 1,000 kilos, which is quite a lot. It's like 2 trucks full. The issue that the guys that come and collect it, they need to sort it using their hands, and they also need to sort it using, some machines. But the issue that people face that are managing the waste is that it's all mixed. And it really leads to a very, very low recycling rate. And the majority just gets thrown away because no one can't touch it. And it smells, after a few hours. And so we said, well, look, why don't we compost here on site? You have land, and we can process all the food waste here. We can process all the garden waste here. Why is that even leaving your property? All of that good compost can turn into soil. The soil helps, build water retention in the ground. It increases biodiversity. It holds more water. It stores more water. And soil is a beautiful thing that we need. We all need, and we rely on it. And all those organics, all that food waste, all of that garden waste should not get mixed in with the packaging and with the paper and with the metals and cans and stuff. They were throwing it all in one big bin. And so we said, look, we're going to build a small composting station here. So we designed, we used like an air blower and a pipe, and we created this composting system for several thousands of kilos per day. And then we put green bins in all the kitchens and all the prep stations. And we trained one of the workers, we called him the eco champion. We said, your role is now to go around and tell people off. And if they, can we get every one of the team members to sign this agreement that they all agree, yes, we will separate. Yes, we understand it's important. And this was like months of work, right? And the sous chef, the GM, everyone said, don't even try, guys. They're never going to separate. They're so lazy. They're never going to do it. But we worked our way through, And in the end, we had almost 100% separation rates in the places that we work with. And they're making their own soil and compost, and their gardens are improving. The plastics can get recycled, the paper gets recycled, the glass can get recycled. And it really comes down to that point. Don't mix it. Don't mix the organics and the non-organics. They're 2 different things. One of them wants to turn into soil and become biodegrade and become nature again. The other one needs machines, and it needs the recycling process, right? With technology and that. So don't mix them together. And it's a very simple message. You would think, oh, that's so common sense. Everyone separates, but it's not the case. And, these resorts are producing the same amount of waste the village does. They're massive. Yeah. They're massive, big operations. They're little tiny, or maybe small cities, massive hotel or small city. I don't know, however you want to see it, but they produce a lot of waste. Yeah.
I also heard you say that there are 7 resorts for every village in Bali.
That's right. It's still the case because COVID hit. I think over 150 of them are for sale right now. If you're interested in buying a resort, the tourism industry has gotten hit so hard by COVID, and there's a very big transition right now. I have no idea where things are going to go, to be honest.
What's your perspective on this travel industry? And there's this love-hate relationship, right? I mean, Bali needs tourism, but we can't come back to mass tourism. So, what's the right balance there?
Unfortunately, the niche that won't be filled with people that are more conscious, right? People that won't come because they're like, I don't support it. I don't want to go. It's mass tourism. That niche will be filled by people that do support it and that are not conscious. And it's unfortunate in human society that things are really messy and chaotic. And I think that as soon as tourism opens up again, that we will be back where we were. My hope is that the locals and the people that live here because it's been so nice and so quiet these 2 years. Like we've had Bali the way we've always wanted it and enjoyed it. it's been so lovely and everyone living here is like, and any Balinese I speak to, he says, yeah, just like not having traffic is fantastic. And I hope that there's this like moment where we remember that and then actually do the work because we're motivated and we remember how good it was. And, when that wasn't so full, to start creating more solutions. There's not enough people participating in solutions, right? People so I think that the tourism numbers will recover over the next 2-3 years. We're going to get back to that 5 million, 6 million, 7 million mark per year, and the island's going to be over capacity again.
Hopefully, in the meantime, our education work reaches more people, and this is what we're hoping, and obviously this is what I do with Rethink Travel, is really try to inspire as many people as I can.
Just to add to that, so the properties we have worked with that have done the work and that are rightfully branding themselves as people that care and that have compassion and that do much more than is needed from them, all of their properties are still doing good. And I think that there is a big shift in the mindset of the market of people being more demanding and picky, right? I think that there is definitely in the high end segment, definitely in the higher end segment, it's a big selling point. And, we have a lot of people that approach us and they don't even know what they want. They just say, yeah, I want what the Potato Head has. And I want what Waterbomb did. Like, I want to be sustainable. Do that. And I'm like, do you really? And then I ask probing questions, and it becomes quite clear that they understand that it will achieve higher revenue, more turnover, more guests, that they can ask and demand higher prices if they get the environmental narrative right. But they can't just tell a story. They need to walk, the talk. They need to do it. They need to do the hard work. And if they're not willing, and if we don't see that, we're not going to work with them. They can go find someone else.
100%. So, I work in marketing, and I've had so many people approaching me the past 2 years say, how can I add sustainability to my marketing? And I'm like, well, before you add it to your marketing, you need to do a lot of things. The whole industry is really shifting into understanding that it's urgently needed. It does look like it's going in the right direction, but we need more people adding, voices to this cause. So, this brings me to talk about sustainability, because there's also, obviously there's environmental sustainability, but there's so many more aspects to it that I think it's really hard for people to understand, because as you said before, it's, once you open this door, there's just so many topics that come your way. And your first milestone is 2030, and you're following a lot of the sustainable development goals. Is this a conversation you have with locals? What is the actual government doing to support you?
Personally, as a company, as a group, we want to become the leader of environmental sustainability. As a group of engineers, we want to set ourselves apart, and we continue to build showcase properties. Each one of our showcase properties can get gold, platinum, they can win awards, because everything we've done and do with them absolutely resonates with the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, as well as with tourism goals, the sustainable tourism goals. It's extremely important to reduce energy consumption per guest night, right? And then after that, it's very important to install renewables and produce your own electricity. A property can put more water in the ground than it takes out, right? By building recharge wells and by building swales and having proper garden management and reusing your water. So we want to get the properties to almost net zero water, basically We even can design them so they run off of rainwater comfortably. 30%, 40% of their consumption is rainwater. We want to get them to be almost carbon neutral. We also want them to strive towards zero waste, which is physically impossible, right? But if they get 90% to 90%, a 90% recycling rate, that's fantastic. And then 10% is still going to landfill. 95 we've even achieved. It's possible, but like that last 5%, there's always hygiene products, and there's always some things that are going to be waste. I think that we're just going to continue creating these showcases and let them speak for themselves. And others will want to follow because they see that these are the properties that are performing. These are the properties that have 80 to 90% occupancy, if not 100%.
Yeah.
These are the properties that are telling this inspiring stories. And it's just a small contribution from us, but it's stable and it's fun. And we're focusing inward since COVID, also just growing our family and taking care of our team, and making sure that our organization is a fun place to be. And then 20% of our time goes into projects where we build infrastructure for villages outside of the hotels and resorts. So we use our engineering capacity and our know-how, and we work with villages. We can build a waste management facility or a composting facility, or we can create protein from maggots that eat waste and then turn into maggots and then can be fed to the chickens, just small little things. We could create a bottling factory for the village so they can produce their own drinking water and don't have to drink Coca-Cola or plastic bottled water anymore. They can start to sell it themselves and produce it themselves. Those are the small little things that we can do. They all have a little tiny impact, but it's real and it's measurable, and it inspires others to copy.
Yep.
And I think it's a lot more fun than writing policies and being in big meetings where you never see the results,
Yeah, I think it's great what you're doing with villages. And I want to ask you, because I'm half Korean. I mean, the amount of plastic in lots of countries in Asia is just, mind blowing. But Korea has a huge plastic problem. But once you put their mindset to change something, it changes very fast. I want to ask you, what's your experience working with people in Bali? Do you see change happening fast? Do you see mindset shifting? What's the young generation doing about this? Like, do you see a difference between the young generation and the older generation towards these topics? Because obviously empowering local communities is what will, I feel, save tourism somehow, because they become the guardians of their country. And so, what's your view on this newer generation, or do you see also changes in the older generation?
I have a lot of hope in the newer generation. I think that it's our turn, and that a lot of us care. And I think that there's a lot of passionate people that, are really want to create change and are driven. And it makes me very hopeful. I'm extremely impressed by the local youth and just their intelligence and how they, are actively solving problems and engaging in wanting to find solutions. It's not everyone, but I don't want to get upset, about this or that. I'm much better suited to be a voice of inspiring those that want to be inspired. And I'm always extremely happy to see that new generation and super savvy, talking their minds, confronting the old paradigms, and the old powers. And it's a very interesting space. Unfortunately, with increasing climate change and, environmental collapse, every year we're going to have more and more environmental tragedies. and there's going to be more heat waves and droughts and, crazy floods and storms. And what that's going to do is it's going to vibrate through the entire planet in the sense that everyone is touched by it and everyone sees it. It's only going to increase the amount of call to action and just the amount of energy that is going to be calling for solutions, and is only going to increase. It's not going to stop. And I think it's still going to get a lot worse than it is before it really gets better.
Unfortunately, yes. A lot of people talk about climate change in the future tense, but it's here everywhere. And obviously, Bali is directly confronted.
Or the huge floods in Germany that just happened in October, November.
Exactly. So, it keeps happening, and it's not their problem, it's everywhere. So This is why I'm impressed with what you created with Mantra. It's an amazing company. I've been following, everything you do. If people head to your website, there are impressive numbers of facts people can get. And obviously I will share your information, the website and your Instagram page. I did want to ask you one question about Potato Head Bali and what you did with them, because they have this lab where they work with recycled waste. And I was just wondering if you're part of this.
Yeah, absolutely. We worked with them 2017. It became really apparent to them that sustainability is going to be very trending, and they understood the storytelling value. But at the same time, Ronald, the owner back then, really wanted to do something right, because he understood that his energy and what he was creating had such an impact on society. His hotels his beach clubs were well visited, and he understood he's a big part of the problem. We worked on a strategy with them doing short-term and long-term goals. And in short-term, we reduced the energy consumption by about 20% and water consumption by 50%. And we reduced waste to landfill by 90%. And in the long term, we were looking at producing your own drinking water, as well as changing the way that they treat their sewage, but also building a lab, providing showcases, training up at least 5 environmental champions. We basically, from the inside, built a sustainability team of locals that cared. They went to do permaculture classes, and they visited other environmental projects, and they came to our office and we did presentations and talks with them, just educating them about all of these topics. And from them, they're the ones that carry the program. They're all Balinese. They're all part of the, internal team. Now, when COVID hit, or just before COVID hit, Potato Head got sold, and a lot has changed in the company. And I'm not really sure what has gone and what's happened now. We built them a framework to measure all of their energy, all of their water, all of their waste, and to report to shareholders on a monthly basis. And we also showed them how they can use that information for marketing purposes. So I only hope that, it continues on and the legacy survives.
Well, you're obviously inspiring a lot of people and hotels out there. What are your projects you're working on right now? Give us a little outlook on your future.
Well, we've working with projects that existed. We're using all the lessons learned and now designing new properties. So there's a lot of new development going on. It can be in all over, Southeast Asia. We have people asking us from Jakarta or in Malaysia or from Lombok, and they want to develop a new destination. So what we are providing as a service now is to work side by side with them while they are, getting the land, while they are doing the first architectural designs, the first drawings. And we use our know-how to guide them to design a property that has a lot more biodiversity, that has proper water management, that doesn't rely on air conditioning, that runs off of solar PV. So we basically design our dream properties. It's so cool for us to have come to this point, where we have the credibility and we have the skill set as a team and the experience to really make an impact and to work side by side some of the bigger developers. So that's really where we want to be right now, because we just see that these properties are going to get developed. If you want it or not, they're going to happen.
Yeah.
Buildings are getting built, and there's so much need. So let's do it way, 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 way better. And we're really excited to see some of those first projects come to life and actually be built. That should be in the next year or so. We've got some in Jakarta on the waterfront, the ocean promenade, like you were saying. We helped them create shade because they had no shade on this promenade, and all the buildings were just blaring AC. The air conditioning was just going out, and it was just like, what are you guys doing? No one wants to be here. It's way too hot during the daytime. So we showed them, like, people only come in the morning, and then at 10 a.m. everyone leaves, and then they come back at nighttime. But during the daytime, no one wants to be there because it's way too hot. And we're like, look, everyone's losing business. No one is happy. Everyone is stressed because it's so hot. So we're doing a lot with different trees and shade structures and creating these awnings and beautiful like flower trellises, with orchids and just amazing stuff. It's really cool. It's going to reduce the temperature by like the ambient temperature by about 6 degrees Celsius. So it's going to go from 34 Celsius to 35 Celsius, which is too hot. It's going to go down to like 28, 29. And that's without air conditioning. It's just using trees and flowers and shade and, like doing proper design. And they're like, no, this is not possible. We're like, yes, just believe us, trust us. And this is the thing, like once you have more experience as a small company, people do trust you, and they do see that you've had, success and that you've proven what you're saying is real. And it's a very satisfying moment. So I hope that we can build on that and create some really, really amazing projects. And I hope you hear from us.
Amazing. I cannot wait to see, all your future projects. And I want the listeners to know, I can see Sean right now. And when he talks about his projects, he lights up. So, I just want everyone to know about this because I can see true passion. You're doing really, really great work. The world needs a project like yours. At Rethink Travel, we really try and inspire people to become conscious travelers. What is your message to travelers, the most important message to pass?
I think it's important to do more domestic tourism. I think that there's going to be a trend towards more domestic tourism in the future, that we're going to travel within Europe, or the US or Asia, wherever we're based. I think that a lot can be done on a domestic level, and would like to say travel lightly, use public transportation, support trains, ride bicycles, little electric scooters, lobby your government and ban cars from city centers and urban centers, reclaim the streets for pedestrians, make life way more livable, have an impact in your local area, right? Wherever you are, wherever you live. The way that the architects and master planners design that life for you doesn't always have to be that way. And it's up to us to change that, right? And anywhere in the world can be beautiful, but we have to allow the beauty to shine through, and we have to allow nature to come back, and we have to push back on all this unnecessary technology and these machines and cars and combustion engines and all this excess stuff. It's too much, and there definitely needs to be a pushback, and it's up to us to do that. So travel light and do more in your local, surrounding an area, and have an impact there. Go visit your government office and representatives, and just do something. And if you have to do that international travel, of course, I totally understand. Do your research, look for the right places or families or people that you want to spend your time with. Go places where you also have an impact, make connections with people that you won't forget. And don't support mass tourism. It doesn't have a soul.
It doesn't. I love that.
It's so dead. It's so dead. And I just, when I see all mass, it's just soulless. It's just for shareholder value. So meaningless.
Yeah, well, change is definitely happening, traveling local or slower. We would like to see more people stay longer and explore everything. Don't just get packed in the same cities. And, that shows that everything is concentrated to the south of the island. There's just so much to see within the whole country. We just will continue pushing for people to travel better. Sean, thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking to you. I've learned a lot. So, thank you so much.
Thank you. Stay positive.
Thank you for spending your time with us today. Find us on Instagram, re.think.travel, to stay up to date with our news. We will be back very soon with a new episode, so don't forget to subscribe. Have a great day.